it is all about relieving the stress of travel, right? What is the one thing that we are really, really obsessed about in air travel? Am I going to make it on time for boarding, right? I have to go through my security check-in. Maybe I want to grab a coffee, quick bio break. And with all of that and the commute time, am I going to be there safely in time, right? And our workflow and how we present it to the passengers relieves that stress. And that's a big motivator for us as a company.
Welcome to Future Fuzz, the digital marketing podcast.
All right, welcome into Future Fuzz, the digital marketing podcast. I'm Vince Quinn, and today we're talking about understanding user experience in physical spaces. And joining us for this conversation is Arvindh Lalam. And Arvindh is the CEO of nCorium, where he's revolutionized airport operations with digital twins. Arvindh, welcome to Future Fuzz, sir.
Thank you, Vince. It's a pleasure to be on your platform.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So I want to start, just explain on the basic idea what nCorium does for people.
nCorium at the core is about improving the user experience of two personas. One is the airport operators, and the second is the passengers going through the airports. For the airport operators, it's like, when we go to physician, we have vital statistics, right? Similarly, airports have these massive amount of people passing through them, through the arteries, let's say, inside the airport. And it causes, sometimes congestion, things pile up. It causes delays. Sometimes you add more counters and things ease up, whether it is the TSA counters or check-in counters. And all of these leave traces, which we call vital statistics of the airport. And we bubble that up for operations teams. So they have near real-time view of all activity inside the airport. We also do what's called predictive analytics. So they know what to anticipate in an hour from now, right? And prepare for it. So the SLAs are met. SLAs like what is the wait time? How long are the security lines taking, etc. For the passengers, it is all about relieving the stress of travel, right? What is the one thing that we are really, really obsessed about in air travel? Am I going to make it on time for boarding, right? I have to go through my security check-in. Maybe I want to grab a coffee, quick bio break. And with all of that and the commute time, am I going to be there safely in time, right? And our workflow and how we present it to the passengers relieves that stress. And that's a big motivator for us as a company.
Yeah, and I mean, it is a stress relief. I'm getting ready for the airport as we speak. I'm packing bags. Like, I am gone as we're recording this. I'm gone in basically 48 hours. So for me, thinking about the airport, it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I think it's so fascinating because when you talk about like the depth of information that you have about these spaces, I think it's so illuminating to see how this all truly operates. I mean, because you're so caught up in it, I think, as a regular person walking through an airport, that you lose the sophistication of how involved a place that is so big with so many moving parts to track all of that. I mean, for some of the demonstrations that you showed me before that we sat down and did all of this, I mean, I was blown away. Like, things you have on the runway and tracking where things are, it's incredible the amount of information you have and the processing that you're doing with all of that in real time. It's really incredible.
Yeah, we're very pumped up. We all wake up very eager to do that next thing. It's very exciting space. And one of the, how do we know we accomplished our mission, right? When the users give us feedback, right? This really blew our mind. This really helped us reduce our, improve our SLAs, reduce the issues, etc. We're very excited about the space. And to your question, how does it work? Next time you're in the airport, look around, you'll see a lot of cameras, which we have, seen for a while. And you'll see some interesting gadgets also positioned along with them. They're called LiDARs, and sometimes you have some other kind of sensors, right? And our platform has the ability to take feeds from all of these sensors and perform sensor fusion inside our servers. And these are servers deployed inside the airport. And the magic happens there. We absorb all of that, process it, converge it to create one view of all space with each person and vehicle shown as a dot, right? So you can literally see, people walking towards something. You can probably see them even if there's one passenger who is behind on schedule, you'll probably see them running and this one dot, trying to beat the rush, right? You might see a lot of people congested near the security lanes, near the check-in lanes, orderly passing through the lanes. It's a very interesting visual that comes out of our platform.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I think is so interesting because as much as for what you do, it's so much of like airports and these big like transit hubs, right? Train stations, things like that. I think it's one of those things that on a personal level, and I think on a marketing side, you also think of like events, right? And how things work at events and where are all these different stands set up and where do people actually go? What does that flow look like? Is it congested in one area and totally empty in another? Same thing with parties, right? Even on like the simplest, dumbest level, it's like, oh, everybody's in the kitchen right now. There's nobody in the living room. Like something is off here. And I always think that balance of space and making a comfortable experience is something that gets overlooked, but it's present everywhere.
Interesting you say that. Let me share one usage case, right? And there was a time when I was traveling almost every week, right? Going through airports, sometimes almost robotically. I know, what time to avoid for finding good parking and, what time to avoid for long security lines, etc. And then one thing I would notice anytime I take a morning flight is like, let's say 6 a.m., 7 a.m., I cross the security line and there's a Starbucks with almost 40, 50 people waiting, right? And what do? I really need my coffee, but how long is it going to take? I don't know. All I can tell is there's a lot of people waiting, right? And cut to now, with, our solution nCorium Aero, we can tell you that between where you are and where you need to be, there is 4 Starbucks. And the third Starbucks probably has the lowest wait time, right? So you can direct, and that awareness of the space and your journey within that space and how you can optimize it is very, very exciting.
Yeah, I think it's really important because you see these kinds of things all the time, like entering a stadium, for example. It's like, hey, the line to get in the door is incredible over here because that's where the subway stop is. And so everybody got off the subway and went to that spot. But if you just walk, a 200 feet over to your right, there's nobody there. And you see these kinds of things all the time. So that's what I love about this is for what you're doing, you have this full understanding of where everybody is typically or in a given moment, what those swings can look like. And then on the other side to be able to get this data and basically, I guess counteract problems, right? Where you could say, hey, this is getting crowded. We need to direct people over here, or you need more seating in this area. Like what are some of the kinds of adjustments that you're typically suggesting?
Absolutely, right? For example, lounges. There is a lounge that's very, very busy and, you have a flight quite a bit away, but is there another space where there are empty chairs? And if there are, how would you know? And a lot of what we do and enable in our application revolves around this, right? The user experience part of it, because one aspect of it is knowing. As a airport operator, I know because I'm watching in the big screen, all the dots, I can tell I'm getting my alerts. But how do you convey that to the passengers? And there are many ways and shapes that takes. To give you an example, in immigration, there's, let's say, 40 counters. And you're walking into the big hall, there's 40 counters, people standing pretty much, let's say half of them are occupied. Some have fewer people, some have more people. But here's the thing. A line with fewer people is not necessarily the fastest lane.
Okay.
Right? And we know that because we are with all our sensor network, we are observing it. We are tracking second by second activity. What is the throughput? How fast are counters moving? And, sometimes people vanish behind other people. But again, our algorithms figure all of that out and give a very accurate view, tell you that might seem like a quicker lane, but, go to this lane, right? And you imagine, public display as you enter the hallway, telling, where the passenger should be routed to. And that, singularly has attracted a lot of attention from, in our conversations.
Okay, so basically the idea of getting that real-time data, not just being able to track it on the back end, but also be able to present it to the people, maybe on a screen or some sort of sorting system, basically, to be like, hey, go over here, go over there, and facilitate the process.
Exactly. And, if you look at the security lanes, right, going into the airport, you can see that, let's say, east lanes have 10-minute wait time. But once you're in the east lane, it may split up into 10 other scanning stations, each with different wait time. And every minute counts, right? When you're trying to, catch that flight, every minute counts. And, the granularity that we have, we can enable the very detailed information at that level. The goal with all of that is, tying back to stress in air travel, right? How do we remove stress from air travel? Just give more information, have passengers have better awareness of their surroundings, of their journey in this space.
Future Fuzz is sponsored by SalesSource, B2B pipeline management and sales growth for your business.
Yeah, and I know obviously we talked a little bit about the back end kind of data you provide, and you mentioned the app a little bit earlier, but like give us a little more detail of the level of engagement that people can get from using the app when they enter an airport.
In the beginning, I mentioned there are two personas, right? One is the airport operators, who are watching this space, and the other is the traveler or the passenger. So, and public display is one way to help them. The other way is we call the travel companion. It's our own app or through our partner. It's on your phone and it is with you the moment you're close to the airport and all the way to the gate, guiding you, telling you about potential delays. You want to grab a meal on the way, you can figure out, you can plan that little journey inside the airport through this traveler companion app. It's imagine Google Maps, right?
Yeah.
Google Maps and airports.
Yeah. And like the same way you get traffic, basically, right? Like
exactly. You'd see stretches of that journey that is red. Some of it is in, let's say, amber. Some of it is in green. And, which also translates to how long the app is telling you will take for you to reach your destination gate. Right. And, so far I've spoken a lot about, departing passengers and arriving passengers, like departing passengers who are going to the gate, arriving passengers who are, let's say, going through immigration and, need to hail a cab. But a big segment of the journey is transfers. Let's say you're in Dubai or, any of these big transfer airports with DFW, and having the ability to, as soon as you, deplane, getting awareness of where you are, where you need to go, how long it will take, and what can you do on the way, right? You want to bio break, what's the nearest, convenience space for that? You need to grab a meal. You've been waiting to finish your first leg and you don't have enough time before you catch your next leg. What can you grab in that little constrained time? All of these elements can be helped with this companion app.
So the interesting thing about this is then, there's really three sides of it in a sense, because you get to see from the operator side, you get to see the overall space and how everything works within it. And is it optimally aligned for people? And on the user side, the traveler side, it's how is this optimally set for them to, in that moment, navigate the place, and what are the best ways to go through? But then the other fascinating thing is to get to see really staff effectiveness, right? Like understanding how your teams operate, and are there different kinds of trends that you can see over time? Maybe, hey, this area is not working so well, like people in this sector, or you know what I mean? It feels like the employee analysis and team analysis can be really deep as well.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, you could say that's the third leg of the stool. So, whether we are talking about check-in counters or security lanes or immigration, right? All of the lanes are ending in what we generically call the service stations. And when we look at, wait times, for example, it's a function of two things. One, the number of people waiting, and the other is how fast are the passengers being serviced. And with our system, it is constantly monitoring and assessing the how long each entity is taking, right? So in real time, we communicate that to both the operations and the passengers through wait times. But there is the other aspect of it, which is how can we improve the wait times, which translates to service stations. And not all service stations may be the same. Maybe it's because there is a newer employee servicing one station, or maybe it's because the way flow is happening for one counter, results in it taking longer on average, right? All of these things bubble up to the operations. And in an alternate universe, airports would be doing these expensive, long duration studies to understand flows and then act on improvements. But with our solution, you pretty much get all of this in real time, and all the historical data is available for somebody to process and assess, how to improve the flow by, for example, identifying service stations, or maybe individual operators who may need more training. In some cases, it could be the flow of people itself. Like maybe one counter is way too far for where the queue ends, right? And that might just add 10 seconds on average for that counter. So all of these can be investigated and acted upon. So basically, to your point, yes, how well are the servicing stations functioning is a big factor in many ways that impacts both the operators, the passengers, as well as for example, airlines, who want to improve the way their counters are structured.
Yeah, and so what's so fascinating too is that you think about this in a lot. We're talking a lot about just the functionality of the space, but you also think about how that translates beyond just like raw business effectiveness, but also to reputation and the value of reputation, right? Like to have a well-run facility and a great user experience, it can really change the dynamic for you of how people view that place. And you think about, I mean, like I said, with stadiums, right? Like they increase the ways of getting people into the door and at their seat. You're going to be more excited to go to the game, or the idea of buying a ticket. Same thing for a conference. Like, so to have all of those kinds of things in your corner where people can go and enjoy actually something that they typically dread, right? Like you said, there's so much stress. So to go through an airport and be like, actually, this was really lovely, and they had this great app, and I had this great experience. Like the long-term effects, the ripple effect, if you will, of the impact of something like this on a facility can be so much greater.
Yes, and there is a lot of increased focus on travel experience. For example, there are dedicated groups in sizable large airports focused on enabling a very welcoming experience, stress-free experience to passengers. And what we do directly impacts that. For example, if you have a high incidence of people missing flights, that tells us something about the way the passenger flow is in that airport, right? Now, of course, these incidents can happen for various reasons. Like, let's say there's a traffic buildup outside the airport, but those are one-off instances, or maybe that is the issue that needs to be fixed, right? So this allows us an opportunity to really identify these metrics. For example, number of missed passengers who have missed flights, or how long has it taken for passenger on average from when they entered the airport premises to got to the gate. So all of these metrics are something that are monitored, and we have a very tangible way of improving those metrics, through this holistic approach. One thing I'd like to add is, in many instances right now, there are capabilities like this, but they're in very limited regions, like only the security counters, right? Maybe in, very rarely in check-in areas. Our vision is to provide, in your words, the beginning, digital twin of the whole airport. It's not just, one segment. It's not just immigration, but everything, right? Lounges, restaurants, coffee stations, check-in counters, the area where passengers are, kind of alighting from the cars and, entering the airport, stretching all the way to the parking lot. There is a big opportunity to take a holistic view of the complete facility and deliver a very, very, incredible traveler experience. We are in really wonderful times now.
Yeah, no. And so if people want to experience those wonderful times and learn more, what's the best way to get in touch?
Our website, it has a lot of very interesting information. It has videos that, kind of help you walk through some of these journeys that I've outlined. And you can always reach us through our contact page. We'd love to hear from you. If you have an travel experience you want to share, we'd love to hear your take. Because again, all of what we do is oriented towards removing stress from air travel.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much. Just appreciate you taking the time to talk about all of this today. Really fun conversation. So Arvindh, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining Future Fuzz.
Thank you, Vince, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. And thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon on Future Fuzz.
Thanks for tuning in and making the choice to listen to this podcast. If you liked what you've heard today, please don't forget to subscribe.